Hey guys, what's up? My name is Avi and welcome to a brand new project on the TheCodex platform. This project is all about building an audio analyzer in Flask with Python. Every single day, millions of people are interacting with their iPhones, with Amazon Alexas, and they're using speech to text to convey commands. Our goal with this project is simple. Can we analyze an input audio file and transcribe it to see the spoken text? This is a very exciting project that will use a whole bunch of different technologies. We'll start off by creating a simple Flask application that can input a file, and then analyze this file using the speech recognition module in Python, and ultimately display the transcript of the audio to the user. This will be a great project to hone your skills on building a simple Flask website, as well as a quick look into the power of audio analysis in Python. And that's it. I'm looking forward to building this project with you. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Avi and welcome back to TheCodex. In this video, we're starting off our brand new series on using speech recognition in Python and creating a web application in Flask to facilitate that request. Let's dive right in. Today, we'll be working on creating a simple Flask application that has a choose file option. So first thing first, let's go ahead and open up our editor. Again, I use PyCharm as my main preference, and I have a simple structure right now that's just a blank directory. Inside of this, I'm gonna go ahead and create a Python file called app.py. This is gonna be where our Flask application is gonna reside. And then I'm gonna go ahead and create two more things as well that we used from our weather dashboard application last time. I'm gonna create a directory for our templates. This will act as the HTML location for our template for the homepage. And then I'm gonna go ahead and create a new directory called static. And inside of this, create a new directory called styles. And so this is just proper kind of hierarchy or formatting of the folder structure in Flask, where I'm setting up my project before we even begin. So our goal for this video is to create this basic UI with not really any exquisite design, but just having an upload new file, a choose file option, and then a transcribe input button. So how would we go ahead and do that? Well, first thing first, let's go ahead and install Flask if you don't have that already. So head over to your terminal, go ahead and say python 3-m pip install Flask. We're gonna go ahead and need that. Hopefully you already have that installed on your machine. And the second thing we'll need in this project is gonna be installing speech recognition. So go ahead and say python 3-m pip install, and then go ahead and specify over here speech recognition. So let me go ahead and minimize this just a bit so you can see that. Pip python 3-m pip install speech recognition. Go ahead and hit enter, and that should go ahead and install speech recognition and Flask on your machine. The next step is to go ahead and create a simple Flask interface. So from Flask, go ahead and import Flask, and then go ahead and import render template. These are the methods that we'll be using. And honestly, you really need like 5 to 7 lines of code to create a simple Flask application. Here we're setting up the basic app Flask name, and we're gonna go ahead and say over here, create our first route that's gonna point to our home page. And if you don't specify a method, for now it'll automatically assume get, but in this case for our application, we'll be using both get and post on our homepage. For now, just go ahead and say it's a get method. And underneath this, let's go ahead and specify that this is gonna be our index page. So again, this is a declarative function. We're specifying that, hey, we're routing to the homepage, and this is the function that points to what should be returned on the homepage. So for now, let's go ahead and put some basic text, return hello world. Again, we're just setting up a basic Flask app for now. And at the very bottom, let's go ahead and say over here, if name is equal to main, so kind of like that basic starting Flask syntax, then go ahead and say app.run. And inside of this, we're gonna say two things actually. We're gonna say debug equals true and threaded equals true. And the reason for both of these is because debug will allow us to just command S this file, and the Flask instance will automatically refresh with the latest updates, which is something that we want. And threaded is true because when we're dealing with files and we're dealing with file upload, we wanna have this on a threaded basis so that our computer doesn't get overloaded and it can process multiple requests at the same time. So with that said, let's go ahead and just quickly run this and see what's up. If you're using PyCharm, Control-Shift-R. If you're using terminal and python 3 app.py. So go ahead and run that, or in your terminal, just type python 3 app.py. And heading over to our local host, let's take a look. And we have a very simple hello world. Fantastic. So what's next? We need to go ahead and recreate the instance that we just saw. So first thing first, let's go ahead and open up our templates folder and create a new file over here called index.html. I'm going to go ahead and stop this server and run my original finalized version so we can see what that looked like one more time. We can see that we have a small header tag over here. We have a choose file input option and then a transcribe input button to the right of that. So I'm going to go ahead and actually run our other instance on this new page so we can kind of see the test purposes for this. There we go. And going to localhost 5000, we can see that there's a lot of work that we need to do between this page and the one over here. So first thing first, let's go back to our index.html. And when I created this, again, WebStorm, or in this case, PyCharm, automatically created a basic HTML format. Go ahead and copy this if you don't have that. I'm going to go ahead and call this site speech recognition in Python. And inside of our body tag, for now, let's keep it relatively simple. I'm going to have a div tag that specifies our speech container. And then inside of this container, I'm going to add the elements we saw in this page over here. So we have our h1 tag upload new file. So h1 upload new file. And now we have a form, and the form has two components. It has this file input that's standard across almost all browsers, and then this transcribe input that acts as the submit button for our form. So let's go ahead and add that component in. We're going to say form method for now, just leave it blank. And then we're going to say encode type. And so the encoding here should be multi-part form data because we're uploading a file here. And inside of this, we're going to go ahead and specify the input method should initially be of type file and name equals file. And so when you specify the input to be of type file, HTML or any web browser will render this choose file, no file chosen input. And this is very standard across web browsers, and it's hard to kind of stylize and modify this, but just go ahead and specify this input for now. And then underneath that, we're going to go ahead and add another input, which is going to be a submit button. So go ahead and add a break, and then the next should be input type equals submit, and value here should be equal to transcribe. All right, so all we're doing, guys, is we're taking the components we saw from our kind of main page, and we're modifying that and just adding those to our new page over here. So let's go ahead and save, and let's go ahead and go back to our app.py, and instead of returning hello world, return render template, and then pass in over here index.html. And the reason why we don't have to specify templates/index.html is because here, Flask automatically understands that inside of templates is where it should look for when rendering templates. And so if you go ahead and just save this file, it should actually, if you refresh now, have your new kind of elements already there added for you. And that's the beauty of app.run debug. You don't have to restart your Flask server every single time, and it makes testing and development a lot easier. So there we go. We have upload new file. Choose file, no file chosen. I can go ahead and select this and select the file for now. And if I hit transcribe, nothing happens. It's just a simple form. So last but not least, the thing I'm going to add here is that the form method is going to be post. And so again, what are get requests and post requests? Get requests are about receiving data. So when you go to a web page, it's always a get request to a server to load the data in. Post requests is when you're taking data from a user input and sending it to another destination, or applying that in the headers and sending it to some endpoint. And so here we're going to specify the method is going to be post. And what we're saying here actually is that apply the post request on our own index page. So we're going to specify here that the methods of our site, our homepage, is get and post. And so what we're essentially saying is when we load the page, make sure you render it as the homepage, just render template index.html. But if the request is a post request, then we want to go ahead and do something with the form data. And so I'm going to end this on a very quick note. And at the very top from Flask import Flask render template, go ahead and import one more thing, and that's going to be the request of the header. And so once that's done, go ahead and in index, ask the question, if my request.method is equal to post, I know that my form has been submitted with some data. And so for now, I'm just going to say print out form data received, but we'll work on this in a future video. But for now, I'm just showing you how you can both manipulate the get request and post request in this scenario. So let's go ahead and run this now with our new print method added, form data received, and let's go ahead and see what happens when a post request is applied. So go ahead and go to your localhost, add a file, choose file, hit transcribe, and okay, we're taken back to the actual localhost 5000 because again, what's happening? It hits the post request. It'll go ahead and see, okay, if request.method equals post, we're printing form data received, and then we're just re-rendering index.html. And that's why the choose file option goes blank. But we did see now that the form data is being received, and now our goal is to manipulate this and transcribe the audio file that's being sent. Hey guys, Avi here, and welcome back to TheCodex. In this video, we're continuing our speech recognition with Python application, and today we'll be working on gathering the file data from the post request and analyzing it with the speech recognition module. So before we get to any of this, first thing first, we saw in the last video that our post request was working. And go back and hit refresh and hit transcribe, I can see down over here, form data received. So I'm hitting my home page with the post request. And now my goal is to get the form data, get the file from that form data, and pass it into my speech recognition module for audio analysis. So how can I go ahead and do that? First thing first, I need to make sure that my file even exists. What if someone pings my website with the post request with no file information whatsoever? So here I'm going to go ahead and say, if file not in request.files, so if there's no file part existing, then I'm going to go ahead and actually redirect the user back to the home page. So I'm going to say redirect request.url, and you'll have to go ahead and import redirect from the top over here. And then after that, what if someone submits a blank file? Right now what can happen is that I can go back to my home page, click transcribe without choosing a file, and that will still submit a blank file as a post request to my kind of backend or API here. And so what I want to go ahead and do is ensure that if file.file name is blank, then I want to go back to the home page again and be like, hey, I need you to submit a file. So I can access the file by saying file equals request.files and then pass in the file attribute. And this will go ahead and give me, if a file exists, it will give me the file. And then here I'm going to go ahead and say that if my file's file name is blank, then I want to go ahead and take the user back to the home page. So return redirect request.url. And so what we've done here, guys, is we've created two examples where we're ensuring fail-safes. We're making sure that if someone hits our API or our post request and gives incorrect data in two formats, either the file doesn't exist or the file name is blank, then we take them back to the home page. And now we can go ahead and assume that our file is good to go. So what do we do with this file? How can we manipulate this? We have that audio file now in our hands, and our goal now is to upload this or analyze this with the speech recognition module. So at the very top over here, go ahead and import speech recognition as SR. And if you remember in the very first video, we installed speech recognition. If you missed that part, again, just remember, it's Python 3-m pip install speech recognition one word with S and R capital. Once that's done, go ahead and scroll down over here and go ahead and initialize your recognizer object. So we're going to say if our file exists, then we're going to say recognizer is equal to sr.recognizer. This will go ahead and initialize our instance of the speech recognition class. And our goal now is to create an audio file from the file that was initially created, and then pass that audio file into the record function of the recognizer module. And that will go ahead and parse that audio file, convert it into an understandable format, and then we can apply a recognition kind of function on this audio file. So what we're going to go ahead and do is apply our audio file first and say our audio file is equal to SR, and then there's an audio file function inside of this module where we can pass in the uploaded file. So we create this audio file object, and then we open this audio file object up and we read it. And we say with audio file as source, for example, we're going to say data is equal to recognizer.record and then our audio file, but in this case known as source. So what we've done here is two steps. We've taken the file that the user uploaded, created an audio file object that our speech recognition module can understand, and then we're opening up this audio file and reading it in through the recognizer. And so once we have this data that's in a format that our speech recognizer module can understand, our goal now is to simply apply a speech recognition technique. And so this module that we're using, speech recognition Python, a simple Google search can help you here. The first module, speech recognition PyPy, is extremely popular. And they have support for all these different speech-to-text APIs. CMU Sphinx, Google Cloud, Wit.ai, Microsoft Bing, etc. And our goal here is to use Google Cloud, the easiest one of all, to convert our audio file into text. So right over here, we're going to go ahead and simply say data is equal to recognizer that records source. And we're going to say here that our text, so enter, text should be equal to recognizer dot recognize Google. So again, you see all these options: Bing, Google Cloud, Houndify, IBM, etc. Go ahead and say recognize Google, and then we're going to pass in the data object. And then after that, you can specify some other stuff like duration, key, etc. For now, just go ahead and say key equals none. That's implied. If you have a Google API's speech to text key, you can also use that here. But for now, just say key equals none, and that's that. So in literally 5 lines of code, we've taken an audio file, we've analyzed it with the speech recognition module, and we have the transcript text of our audio. So let's go ahead and in the last case, print out the text, okay? That's all we're doing. We're saying that if we get a post request that has a file, print out the recognition text. So let's go ahead and save this and head over to the run portion. So you should have your instance running. Head over to localhost, refresh. I'm going to go ahead and just hit enter one more time. This is my upload new file. And now you need a file to test this with. And what's unique about the Google Cloud Speech to Text is it uses a WAV file format. So I would recommend searching WAV speech sample. Go ahead and search this and figure out what's a good sample that you can use. I personally went to this link, Open Speech Repository. I clicked on it. And over here, they had these 30-second long samples of fantastic files that fit my purpose. So my goal here was a 30-second WAV file of someone speaking. So I clicked on this, it opened it up. If I play it out here.
These days, a chicken leg is a rare dish.
Okay, so you can see that as an audio of someone speaking. Go ahead and download this audio onto your machine, okay? And again, if you have an MP3 file of you speaking or someone speaking, go ahead and just quickly search up how to convert MP3 to WAV format, MP3 to WAV online, and get a WAV format file that's spoken audio. Once you have that, go back to localhost, choose the file, and choose the sample we just downloaded. I renamed mine to transcribe sample. Feel free to just select the one you just made, hit open, and then hit transcribe. So what's going to happen here is that it's going to run our code, and it's going to say that, okay, form data received, it's going through our file processes, and now it's analyzing our file, the 30-second long file, and printing out the text of that file. So it'll take us back to the home page, but we see right over here, Burke's canoe slid on the smooth planks, glued to the sea, dark blue background. It's a bunch of random sentences. That's what the audio sounds like too, but that is the speech to text working. So fantastic job, guys. The goal of this video was to take our file in the post request and apply speech recognition techniques in Python to get the written text. In the next video, we'll tie everything together, render the transcript onto the index.html page, and beautify the platform. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Avi and welcome back to TheCodex. In this video, we're continuing our speech recognition with Python platform, and we are so close to being done. We saw in the last video that we were able to take in an audio file, get it analyzed, and print out our transcription text. All we have to do now is render that on the index.html front page, show the transcript down below, and then we're done. So super exciting stuff. Let's go ahead and just get right to it. First thing first, I'm going to go ahead and modify our index.html to support the creation or the display of text. So I'm going to say over here underneath our form, I'm going to create a new div, give it an ID. I'm going to call this speech transcript container. And inside of this, I'm going to say an h1 for my transcript. And then underneath that, let's just give it a paragraph. And inside of this, for now, let's use a Jinja variable and pass in transcript. So what's going to happen is we're going to load in our kind of index.html template with the transcript kind of variable passed in once the text has been loaded. So down over here, return render template index.html, go ahead and say transcript is now equal to the transcript variable that we're going to pass in. And right now, transcript doesn't exist. So our goal here is to initialize a transcript variable at the very top. So at the very top of this function, let me go ahead and add some space so this is a bit more visible. Over here, inside of index, let's initialize transcript to be a blank variable, okay? And then once the post request is hit, if the text is found, then I'm gonna go ahead and say transcript should be equal to recognizer.recognize Google and get the actual text of what the user was speaking. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and say is, okay, look, if I run this and go back to my homepage and I refresh, going to localhost 5000, I see this odd transcript that doesn't look too nice. So I'm going to hide the transcript and the blank transcript paragraph tag until we get transcript data. And that's where some cool, nifty Jinja 2 comes into play. I can go back to index.html and I can add a condition on showing this div tag. So I'm going to say over here, using the %, if transcript is not equal to blank string, okay? So I'm saying that if a value exists, then I want to show this transcript container. Otherwise, don't show me anything. And hopefully this makes sense. It's a very, very intuitive piece of logic here. All I'm trying to say is, if the transcript is not blank, then show me this transcript text. So save this, go back, refresh, and now you see that transcript text is gone. All we see over here is just blank text. But now, look at this beauty. I'm going to choose a file. I'm going to choose the same transcribe sample. And again, it's 30 seconds long, so it does take a bit of time for it to analyze. But let's see what happens. So it's loading. It'll take around 5 to 8 seconds for it to transcribe. But as soon as it transcribes, we're passing that variable into the render template function. And look at that. Transcript, Berg's canoe slid on the smooth planks, etc., etc. That's exactly the functionality we wanted. We can take in any WAV file format now and add a transcript, and I think that's absolutely brilliant. Nice work. And for the last thing that I love to do with these projects is beautify it. I want you to be proud about the projects that you build, and in this case, I really want you to have that design aspect as well. So I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes kind of just playing around with the design and beautifying it. Feel free to copy me if you'd like. If you have your own take or your own designs, feel free to do that as well. So first thing first, I'm going to go ahead and get a font. Again, if you've seen me from my weather dashboard, I love the font Leto. So I'm going to go ahead and search for that again one more time. Leto, click on this and add this over here. So I'm taking in my regular and my bold. And then I'm going to say embed, copy this link, and go back to my PyCharm project. And at the very top over here, paste that link. So all I've done is imported my Leto font into my project. And then the second thing is I need to import my style sheet. So instead of static, instead of styles, go ahead and say new style sheet and create an index.css file. And if you remember, kind of like very similar from the last video on the Flask dashboard or last project with Flask dashboard, you can go ahead and just paste in over here our link rel equals style sheet. href is going to be some beautiful Jinja code, URL for, and then here we're saying look for the static directory. And inside of the static directory, I want you to look for the file name that is over here, file name equal to, and then we're passing in styles/index.css. And if you're using PyCharm and you see this kind of like hovering issue where it's not recognizing your Jinja code, make sure you go to PyCharm preferences, search for template language, and then over here it's going to ask for what template language you want, mark Jinja, hit apply, hit OK, and immediately that highlight goes away and it starts recognizing your code. So all I've done here is I have taken this link and I've stated over here, my style sheet should be equal to href, URL for static, file name should be the style/index.css. Go ahead and close that link. And so now we've linked our CSS file in this project. And now we'll just beautify this and add some nice CSS. So we have our div ID for speech container. I'm going to go ahead and give my paragraph over here an ID as well. I'm going to give it speech text. And now let's go to our index.css and apply a bunch of nice CSS. So I have an h1 tag, I have a paragraph tag, and I have an input tag. And for all of these, I know my font family should be Leto. And then as a backup option, always mention one kind of like default, which here is sans serif. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and say that my speech container should have a margin of 20 pixels. So add some nice padding or like margin around this container. And then I have this submit button that I want to give an ID to. So I'm going to say over here, ID should be equal to submit button, and kind of like mimicking the view that you see over here with this nice blue transcribe button. I'm going to try and recreate that. So submit button. And there's like common stuff that I like to go. So background color, this is like the Codex theme. Color here, white. Corner radius or border radius here, let's say 5 pixels. I don't want the black border that it normally comes with, so border none. And then let's give it some padding, 10 pixels top bottom, 30 pixels left right. And this is again just like standard CSS. And then on submit button hover, I want to say cursor should be pointer. So if you like give this a read through, a lot of this will make intuitive sense. If you have any questions, just let me know, or like search this up on W3 Schools. But if I save this and now I refresh, there we go. So it looks a lot better. And I would say over here, give my transcribe button some margin. So margin top, let's say 10 pixels or 20 pixels, which is fine. Refresh. Let me see if that's saved. Refresh one more time. And if that happens and you see that your CSS doesn't get updated, again, a nifty trick here is to open up your index.css from view source. And you see over here, the margin top that doesn't exist. But if I refresh, margin top exists now. I can refresh this and I can immediately see that my button looks great. And I have all this font updated. So that is the updated upload new file, choose file, transcribe. That looks great. And then last but not least, I'm going to modify my paragraph tag. So this paragraph for speech text, I'm going to say over here that, well, first thing first, add some margin to my speech transcript container. So speech transcript container, margin top, 20 pixels. And then for my paragraph tag over here, speech text, which is like the actual transcript text, font size 18 pixels. And then let's give it a width of 500. So it doesn't extend all the way across the screen. So go ahead and save that. I'm going to refresh this. Make sure to refresh my index.css to make sure it's loaded. And now if I go ahead and go through this one final time, choose a file. This is my sample wave file. Transcribe. It's going to take a couple of seconds because it's a bit slow. But again, if everything from our past experience seems to be good, then we have successfully built a Flask application that can take in any wave file and transcribe it. Awesome. So again, a lot prettier. It looks a lot nicer. This is my transcription text. And there's a lot more you can do with this now in terms of audio analysis. For future work or for future ideas, try playing around with like word usage and tell me like what filler words I'm using or like how the audio was analyzed, things like that. You can look into kind of like common words that the user spoke, maybe find like a theme, sentiment analysis on this text, things like that. But I would say fantastic job. This is a simple, fun project to build. We learned how to integrate Flask and files. We learned about speech recognition with audio. And at the end of the day, we built an end-to-end project where you can upload a WAV file, analyze the audio, transcribe it, and render that information to the user. I hope you've had a lot of fun with this project. I know I have, and I genuinely hope to see you on another project on the Codex platform. Thanks so much for listening, guys, and I'll see you in a future video.